Seriously though, I just washed my hands off with water. Look at how clean these things are. My hands have never looked this clean. Today I'll be discussing using my Harbor Freight portable sandblaster for cleaning intake valves on gasoline direct injected vehicles. Now, this is a walnut shell blaster for me. You could probably put different media in here, but I'm using the walnut shells because the walnut shells they're going to be easy on the internal engine parts. The little walnut shells are not going to be like rocks where they could scrape. Now you still don't want to get it into your engine, into your cylinders. You want to have the valves completely closed, and you want to be very careful not to get this in another open intake port or somewhere where it's going to get inside your cylinder. But if it does, it's not going to be as bad as something a lot more hard than walnut shells. So this is how much media I use. This is a Harbor Freight, this is a Milwaukee, almost the same thing, vacuum cleaner. And I'm going to estimate that I probably used about 5 pounds of walnut shell. And it did work pretty well. It took me about, I would say, 2 to 3 minutes of per intake port, 2 valves per port. It took me about 2 to 3 minutes per port. Of course, that's just the time that it takes to blast. And I did buy a custom fitting. You don't necessarily have to have a custom fitting, but it's going to be a lot more messy if you don't have that. And what I'm talking about is I probably have to go grab. No, that's not what this is about. We'll do another video showing exactly, a full-length video showing how to do the walnut blasting with the custom adapter. So using this, the Harbor Freight deal, only I bought this from ECS Tuning. I spent about $100 extra because I thought that I was getting a better piece of equipment, but since I compared them, they're pretty much identical. And this had a kind of like a air dryer regulator built onto it, but it was the cheapest piece of junk ever. I could not operate. It was broken from the start. I don't expect anything good from this unit. This is kind of a piece of junk. But the one I used at the dealership, we had this very fancy walnut blaster at the dealership that cost about, I don't know, $1,500, $2,000. And this does get the job done, even though I had to take the regulator off and just kind of regulate it with the valve here, the on-off valve at full air pressure. It still worked. You might end up using more shells that way. I really wish I had a good regulator on it, but you get what you pay for sometimes. There is chunks of carbon in here. I can see this. I was thinking, you know, because I'm very frugal, could I reuse this maybe once? And I probably could. The chance of clogging up the blaster and causing you frustration is always there. So I was thinking of a different way that I could possibly repurpose or use this walnut shell in a different way. And I've always known that they put walnut shell in soap. If you pay attention and look really closely, you can see that this says manufactured with walnut shells. And this is some really good soap that I used to use at the dealership. I used to talk to the guy that would bring the supplies, and I would buy my own supplies from him. So no, I didn't take bottles of soap or anything from the dealership. I would also buy pig mats off of them and stuff like that. A little bit cheaper than buying it on my, I don't have that ability anymore. Anyway, this isn't specifically really the video about sandblasting, and I'll make another full-length video on cleaning the valves and showing you the fitting and all that. But going back to the walnut in soap, I made a full-length video of all these different soaps and testing them, and I still got the ones that I don't like the Fast Orange and the Goop, and I wasn't a fan of the Purple Power. The one I liked was the Gojo because it had the grit in it. Now sometimes it's nice to have you know, some soft soaps that don't really have grit in it because your hands really aren't that dirty, and you like to have the moisturizing type capability on it, you know. So that's what these soaps are good for. But when you really need to get your hands clean, you need something like the Totally Nuts, or the original one that I learned about was Cresto from. So walnut shells. The walnut shells that you're gonna get in most soap are probably a third or a fourth the size. They're very, very, very tiny granules. Now these are pretty small granules as well, but I got to thinking, walnut shells, what if I add my own walnut shells to the crappy soap? It might make it good, and it did. I cleaned my hands better than I'd ever cleaned my hands in a very long time. Now that was a few minutes ago and they already got dirty again. But basically all you gotta do is take your crummy soap, like your Fast Orange, and then just add in your own, sprinkle in your own walnut shells, and then you really have a nice gritty soap that's gonna get in there and just get all that dirt off your hands. So you rub it in really good, you add just a little bit of water, you keep rubbing, add a little bit more water, you keep rubbing, and then finally when you're satisfied, then you wash it all off. So if I had some fresh water right now, I could show you how well these walnut shells, even the used walnut shells with a little bit of carbon in it, you could possibly take a small container like this and keep this by your sink, and then when your hands are really dirty, just add a little bit of walnut shell to your soap, and you would be extremely surprised how much cleaner your hands will get with this thick, gritty walnut shell. Now, for commercial applications, they're never gonna put big grit in here like this. It won't pass. There's too many soft people that it can't be commercialized. So, and also, you know, I have some pretty scarred up hands, and I've always got at least like 5 cuts on each hand, and it doesn't really bother me. If I have some areas, and I could show you, but if I have some areas of skin that are fragile, that have recent cuts on them, it doesn't bother me to put the walnut shell. It doesn't hurt. I'm used to it, maybe. But you know, you don't always need to do this. You know, you could just keep the walnut shell off to the side and then only use it when you want to. And I'm telling you what, it works better than any kind of brush. Any kind of brush. Like this Craftsman brush has a little nail. Now you can also use the brush with it. That's the best part. You're gonna get your hands so clean. You're gonna get valves clean, and you're gonna get your hands clean. And it's all from the magic of crushed walnut shell. Like and subscribe. Seriously though, I just washed my hands off with water. Look at how clean these things are. My hands have never looked this clean.